The sign that you are making progress in your astral body studies is when your emotional body becomes more regulated, more balanced, when your habitual or normal sensitivities change or are in the process of changing. Usually it happens through a period of stages, through several stages. So for instance, as you heal or develop your astral body, you may suddenly notice certain foods are not a good fit for your body, and you may grow a sudden aversion to something, or perhaps get curious about removing something from your diet as an experiment, something you suspect is dragging your awareness of yourself down, perhaps clogging up your physical body. It's the astral body that signals to us through the five senses. We can add in, as we will later, the sixth, the intuitive sense. More on that in other classes. It's the natural senses that signal to us those things that are ready to be released or changed or developed further. Now, when the astral body is not functioning as it should, we get into a rut. We get into repeating habits or actions that undermine our potential. Listening to our feeling world, listening to our astral body becomes a tremendous ally in our goal of personal and spiritual development. So, see, we have a distinction between the two topics of our class, the healing versus development. Healing the astral body refers to first becoming aware of something in our lives, something in our emotional world, in our mental or cognitive reality, something which is not flowing, something which is skewed, something blocked, perhaps blocking our progress. Any shock, any past trauma, any difficulty in our development in the astral body, if not processed, if not released, keeps us stuck in the past, keeps us repeating loops of behavior or repeating relationships that give us the same frustrating result time and time again. Healing the astral body implies that first we become aware of where we're stuck, where we are looping, where we are suffering, where it's no fun, and then we move towards the resolution of that stuck place and into the completion of what the stuck place has been unable to dissolve into or release into. We need to complete that which has been left incomplete. The emotional or mental suffering we have in our lives is directly connected to places in our past that have not been processed, not have been released. The astral healer's job is to first identify the stuckness, the loop, and then help ourselves or our clients move out of the loop and towards the astral body functioning as it should, doing the job it really is designed to do. So that process of moving forward is the development of the astral body, the evolution of who we are, which is we're made out of stars, we're souls, we're seeking to becoming embodied in the three bodies, the material, the etheric, and the astral. So let's turn our attention to the third chakra, Manipura chakra, and we want to explore today its vital role in the process of identifying where we need healing or help, and then how it helps us move forward towards our evolution and development and away from unnecessary suffering, unnecessary emotional pain. So if you're familiar with my other writings on the third chakra, published on my website, for instance, you'll be aware that a major function of Manipura chakra is that it creates a mental and cognitive map of both our inner world and especially the outer world. We humans need maps of meaning. We need some way to orientate ourselves in the outer world, and we also need to deal with our own landscape, our own persona, filled as it is with all sorts of emotional realities. In this class, I'm suggesting that there is no such thing as a separate emotional body separate from the mental body. You often find this division in various forms of energy healing. Here's the emotional body, here's the mental body. I want to emphasize that there is an underlying etheric structure to matter, but that the emotional reality of our inner worlds is enmeshed and interactive with the mental, with the cognitive realities. By way of referencing this to Daskalos refers to this distinction as psychonoetical with a hyphen. Here's a quote from one of his book, quote, "The relationship between the psychical world, emotions, and the noetical world of thoughts is so interwoven that we need often to consider them semi-unified. There is scarcely a thought without some emotion, and in every emotion there is a measure of thought," unquote. Now, in a different class, we can explore the many implications of this semi-unified state of the astral body, its multi-dimensional nature that often throws our self-created reality, here in the 3 dimensions, into confusion, into chaos sometimes. So here in the stable 3-dimensional reality of the material world, reality operates according to a set rules, patterns. And in order to be in the ordinary world of matter, we need to understand those rules. We need to understand those patterns. So as an infant, when I'm growing up, I need to understand that if I jump off my chair, I will not fly as I do in my imagination. I will in fact fall to the ground. So this is an essential reality check. It's needed to be put in place here in the physical world if we want to survive, if we want to thrive. You need to understand the rules and the patterns of our 3-dimensional ordinary world, material world. But in the astral world, where we move from 3-dimensional reality to 4-dimensional realities, everything changes. Now, my mind can direct my feelings. Often it can affect my physical body, and my feelings can help or hinder my mental state, my cognitive perception of things. Only by understanding the new rules of the astral body and the astral body in general can we heal and develop ourselves. And to understand the new rules, we have to make them real for us. We have to interact with the astral body. We have to adjust our cognition to include the astral domains. This is the ability of Manipura Chakra, the 3rd chakra, to create a map of reality, to recognize patterns and discover the rules of physical reality. It's very important to us as humans and even as multidimensional beings. In effect, we have to learn to run 2 operating systems, 2 inner maps of meaning in the hardware of our emotional mental body. Our astral body needs to be capable of running both programs. So the first map of meaning is consensual reality, the way everyone around us sees the world and how we get things done in the regular world. So in the ordinary world, I need to get on an aircraft or a ship in order to move myself to another country or another part of the world. But the astral body is able to transfer itself, or more accurately, a self-created aspect of itself, anywhere on the planet it has knowledge of. The key piece here in astral travel or long-distance relocation work is that it has to have a physical world reference. It has to have an origin point in the consensual world of matter and rules. So the 3rd chakra starts out with learning all about the 3-dimensional consensual reality. And then it slowly, over time, comes to realize that there's another reality, the 4th dimensional reality of what we're calling the astral, and that it's running parallel with ordinary reality, and that we can learn to perceive the astral, listen to the astral speaking to us, and understand that in the astral there are both allies and distractions or hindrances, and that we have to take both of them into account. So let's move to the practical aspects of the 3rd chakra, looking through the eyes of its astral functioning. So first, the mental and cognitive energies flowing through the third chakra need to study. They need to gain experience, need to have access to important and relevant knowledge in order to function well. Let's look at school as an example of that. First, we have kindergarten, where as infants we're introduced to others in the world, and we learn to play and cooperate with other children, other people. Then we get older, we move into middle school, and we start to gain the basic building blocks of being a functional human being. We learn language, we learn the arts, we learn all about creativity. Maybe we study various sciences. We take on physical challenges like sports and so on. The third chakra advances us through these different stages of learning and then substitutes one level of understanding for a higher one, and then letting the older maps of meaning fade away from sight. So those of you who are familiar with psychology know the work of Jean Piaget and stage development, psycho-emotional stage development that we go through. This is a good and vital example of how we grow, how our consciousness grows throughout our life, especially during infancy. We need to grow in this way in order to fully move into the adult world, into the consensual reality shared with others. Now, further along, our mental and cognitive growth, the prefrontal development of the adult is completed around mid-20s. The brain is still growing until mid-20s. And then most humans in their mid-20s to late 20s move into adulthood and into productive relationship with the outer world. But for the sensitive adult, for the person paying attention, alongside this development is the growing realization that there's a non-ordinary reality, something that coexists alongside us, alongside the three-dimensional world. The astral function of the third chakra takes on the study of the astral body using the same eyes it used with our early infant experiences. So first it learns to play with others in astral world kindergarten. Then it starts a course of study which may reach high school, but sometimes goes on further. So this is the challenge of the astral function of the third chakra, to allow ourselves to move into our four-dimensional self, and paralleling the process we've used in consensual reality, even though the rules are different, the patterns are different. So Manipura chakra, the third chakra, tracks the information on the astral body, on astral reality, and it takes us through astral school, through astral college. And just like college, just like school, when we want to heal and develop the third chakra, it requires study. It requires discipline to break through one life stage and into another. Now, one term you'll come across in this, in the transition from one stage to another, is the concept of the initiation. An initiation is the passing from a younger state of being and understanding into an older state, a more developed state. And initiation requires ritual elders, so those who both teach and steward the initiate, help them move forward. This is why the third chakra will always seek out a teacher, a mentor, a guide, so as to tap into the resource that is initiation. A teacher, a guide, a guru, a mentor acts as a catalyst for the human being striving to become more, looking to fulfill his or her potential. Now, once we factor in third chakra relational chords, we can see how it takes a long time and lots of life experience to advance our third chakra into its full potential. That's why in tribal cultures, the grandfathers and the grandmothers, the elders of the tribe were venerated. They were respected since they'd already passed through many stages of development, many initiations, and they could guide the younger generations efficiently through their own transitions, guiding the other people on their own journey. So in developing your third chakra function, you will need to study, to practice, you'll need to work with various teachers, mentors. It's good to have several, so you're not stuck with one. Have 2, 3, 4 different teachers that look at things slightly different, work with different skill sets, and then you combine together what they teach. You take from what they have for yourself. Now, where does the third chakra go awry? So remember from last week, when we looked at the second chakra, we saw how the second chakra has challenges, and that we could see those challenges through the lens of the oral character structure, with the worst case scenario being the borderline personality disorder. Now, with the third chakra, we're actually looking at things going awry through the eyes of the psychopathic character structure. It's a poor choice of words, I think, and I actually prefer narcissism or variations of narcissistic distortions over the term psychopathic character structure. They're swimming in the same swimming pool. They're talking about the same material. But what we know about narcissism now is quite detailed, and it's a much better label, I think, to use. So for third chakra distortions, problems, you'll need to study narcissism. Both healthy narcissism, so that's what gives you a healthy sense of self, self-esteem that protects us from abuse or from being exploited, and of course, healthy narcissism that helps us embrace relationships, healthy relationships with others, helps us develop empathy and the recognition of the reality of the other. To have a healthy narcissism also implies that you can strive to be more, that you can strive to value yourself so much that you want to be the best you can be. Healthy narcissism, a healthy and robust sense of the value of the self, is an essential ingredient to our personal and spiritual growth. So what about unhealthy narcissism, which is how it's usually seen? When we use the term narcissism, usually we mean the unhealthy aspects. What do we see when the third chakra, at the astral level of its functioning, how it struggles or how it ends up being underdeveloped? The first place we can look in the astral function of the third chakra is an imbalance between the astral flows to and from others. Again, to remind you, these astral flows contain both emotion and mental or cognitive perceptions intertwined. So in other words, we can see an imbalanced flow from the third chakra to the other. And we can also find a selective energy flow from the other and into the person with a challenged third chakra. Now, the first casualty of this process of a challenged third chakra is the reduction, maybe even the elimination of empathy and self-accountability. The psychopathic character structure struggles with empathy and often defaults towards blaming the other person for those issues he or she should really be accountable for. Self-accountability, the third chakra ability to see the impact of our actions upon another and to be willing to modify our behavior to be in line with a healthy relationship, that process is compromised with those challenged with unhealed narcissism. In addition, often the unhealthy narcissist is very smart, perhaps skilled in the arts of manipulation, exploitation, and without empathy, without the ability to resonate with the emotional reality of another, without accountability, self-regulation, without those things we run into a lot of problems, a lot of suffering. A good part of many of our problems on this planet can be seen as distortions in or issues with third chakra development. Being unable and perhaps unwilling to negotiate and have everything resolved on a level playing field. The unhealthy narcissist can be incredibly destructive at one extreme or obstructive and controlling at the other end. Relationships are built and maintained on their own terms, often overriding the legitimate concerns of their loved ones or colleagues for that matter. Now, astrally, this can be summed up as the controlling individual, the coldly calculating person, someone who exploits those around them to a greater or lesser extent there are gradations in this, from very small and annoying all the way up to the political and social engineering level. We're also looking at the man or woman who blames others for situations they themselves have created, those or they've participated in creating. So responsibility is offloaded towards others, and the person with a challenged third chakra grows increasingly isolated and angry over time. They're not able to seek out teachers. They're not able to work with a ritual elder because they themselves are the only ones that can have power in any relationship. So they cannot submit to the initiation process because they want to guarantee that they are not shamed or humbled in the process. So, spoiler alert, many initiations require humbling, being humbled. They require a confrontation with our inflated or childlike sense of self in order to transition to the next level of personal growth. The astral clearing of the third chakra requires a dedicated and long-term commitment to a healing process that first confronts our inner 2-year-old and lovingly ushers him or her into sharing food, sharing your toys, sharing his or her space with others. So astral clearing in the third chakra requires the opening of a closed mind, where we or the other are convinced we're right and others are wrong. So it means shifting from the entitled or the demanding or the controlling infant mind inside all of us into the empathic, realistic, the fair mind of the adult. So I hope this short journey through third chakra astral function sparks your curiosity to learn more for your own healing, for your own development, but also in assessing the third chakra development of others. In the next series of these classes, series 2, later in the year, we'll go into the chakra cord implications of the third chakra, both when it works in a healthy way and when unhealthy narcissism, when the psychopathic character structure attempts to distort a shared reality that they try to attempt to distort it into their own creation and along the lines of their own selfish agenda.